all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. So, Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play. We are at the section Holy Mother and the Theater. Aparesh Mukhopadhyay, an actor and playwright, wrote, "A man sees the outer form of a man, but God sees the inside. But God sees inside him. A man sees the outer form of a man, but God sees inside him, and I witness this truth. Holy Mother, the spiritual consort of Sri Ramakrishna, came to a theater in Calcutta and embraced an actress who was a courtesan. Thus she demonstrated that God's grace does not discriminate between good and thorny plants, between good and bad human beings, and does not care for the injunctions and prohibitions of the empirical world. That divine grace only purifies all, irrespective of caste and creed." It's the end of the quote from Aparesh. The ever-pure Holy Mother accepted all the actresses in Girish's theater and blessed some of them. In those days, actresses were generally recruited from red light districts. As Ramakrishna gave respectability to the Bengali stage by watching various plays, such as Chaitanya Leela, so also Holy Mother saw several of Girish's plays and saw him act as well. It was probably in the last part of the 19th century that Holy Mother went to see the Daksha Yajna performed at the Minerva Theatre at 6 Beedon Street in Calcutta. This was the first of Girish's plays the Holy Mother saw. Ramakrishna also had also seen the play. Girish acted in the role of Daksha, the father of Sati, Shiva's consort. Brahmachari Akshay Chaitanya wrote, "Holy Mother went into ecstasy seeing the play Daksha Yajna." Several years later, Girish invited Holy Mother to see Vilvamangal Thakur, a popular devotional play. Holy Mother went to see it at the Minerva Theatre on Wednesday, 25 January 1905. Girish arranged a royal box seat for Holy Mother and engaged an attendant to fan her with a large palm leaf fan. Girish performed the role of a hypocritical monk who was trying to teach Takmani, a female confidant of the courtesan Chitanmani, how to love Krishna. As she watched Girish's performance, Holy Mother commented with a smile, "Why are you behaving like this in your old age?" Later observing the one-pointed love of Vilvamangal, Holy Mother said, Ah, what wonderful love." Holy Mother went to the Minerva Theatre again on 1 March 1905 to see a performance of Jana, I guess that would be Jana. Girish based this play loosely on the Mahabharata. In it, he introduced the role of a court jester, taking the role himself. He portrayed his own character in that role, criticizing and using abusive words against Krishna, but at the same time showing deep devotion to him. He had once treated his guru, Ramakrishna, in the same way. Now, this is a remarkable episode for those of you who haven't read about Girish, both in the Gospel and in other books. When he first came to the master, he would almost always arrive drunk and would be very rude to the master. But at the same time, he would fall in a complete prostration and beg his grace. So here, both sides of his nature were on display, and sometimes Ramakrishna remonstrated with him for being so really rude. So it's interesting that Girish wrote this behavior into his play. Girish had once treated his guru, Ramakrishna, in this same rude way. Holy Mother laughed as she watched Girish's performance. Swami Saradananda asked, "Mother, why are you laughing?" Mother replied, "I see Girish's own character reflected in that role. I know he is endowed with deep faith, and he believes that one can have liberation by calling on God. And again, he abuses God." So this is, for those of us who have a temper, we can keep this in mind. We can keep this in mind. Sri Ramakrishna said, if necessary, be a tamasic devotee. Lose your temper with God. Bang on the table and say, "What, am I your 8-month child? In other words, am I some sort of not worthy person? Grant me your grace," and demand it. Demand it. So if indeed we do get angry with God, there's lots of evidence in many scriptures that this is not regarded as something that excludes you from grace. Holy Mother's next visit to the Minerva Theater was on 22 April 1906. She saw the play Chaitanya Leela, which the master had seen on 21 September 1884, long time ago, long time before. Ashutosh Mitra wrote, "Last night, Holy Mother went to see Chaitanya Leela. Girish arranged for this play to be performed for one night after a long time and offered a royal box seat to the mother. The roles of 2 villagers, Jagai and Madhai, were enacted by, oh my goodness, help me out, Balakrishna.
Ardhenetu Shekhar.
Okay, and Girish.
And Girish.
Bhushan
Kumari.
Bhushan Kumari, a famous actor, had retired from the stage, but she acted in the role of Chaitanya without any remuneration because of Holy Mother. Shushila Bala acted in the role of Nitai, a disciple of Chaitanya. Both actresses came and bowed down to the mother before the play started. Holy Mother later commented, "That girl, Bhushan, was full of devotion. Otherwise, one cannot act in that role. She looked and dressed like the real Chaitanya. Who could tell that she was a woman?" This was very common in the Bengali theater at the time. Men playing the roles of women and women playing the roles of men. It's interesting. You can, if you want to know more about it, Swami Chetanananda wrote a full book, a very thick book. It's about 3 inches thick, 2.5, 3 inches thick, about Girish Ghosh all by himself. And of course, a lot of it is about his theatrical activities. About Jaghai and Madai, the mother remarked, "Where will you find devotees like them? Likewise, where can one find devotees like Ravana and
Hiranyakashipu.
Thank you. It's my vision, folks. It isn't that I can't pronounce it. I just can't read the dadgum script. I can't parse it out. Girish used to scold the master, and at the same time, he had so much devotion for him. They came to this world like that. That's about Ravana and Hiranya, however that word was pronounced. Is it easy to become a devotee? Does devotion come automatically? Now this again, these remarks by Mother are something for us to take to heart. Devotion is something, it'll start as a spark within us. Something will give us that feeling of reverence. We'll find reverence somehow. But then we have to, it's like starting a fire with a match, one match and a tiny little bunch of moss, dry moss and so on. It starts and you just gently blow on it, and then it becomes a flame and you can build the fire around it. The same thing is true of devotion. We start with just this feeling, somehow we get this feeling of reverence, and we need to nurture it. On Sunday, 12 September 1909, Holy Mother again went to the Minerva Theater, this time to see Pandava Gaurav, the glory of the Pandavas. Girish based this drama on the story of Dandi, the king of Avanti?
Yes.
Avanti, and Urvasi, a celestial nymph. In his drama, Girish performed the role of
Kanchuki.
Say it again. Kanchuki, an old Brahmin minister in King Dandi's court. Swami Chetanananda recorded in his reminiscences, I was then serving Holy Mother at Udbodhan House in Calcutta. One day Girish came to see her and invited her to see him act. Holy Mother agreed. She, Radhu, Maku, and another woman and other women devotees went in one carriage. Lalit Chattopadhyay, Dr. Kanjilal, and I went in another carriage. Girish was extremely happy that the mother had come to see his performance and was busy trying to make the play perfect. He arranged a special box seat for the mother, and we sat next to her. The mother silently watched the play. When Kanchuki appeared on the stage, the mother commented, "Oh, that is Girish. He is dressed very well with wonderful makeup. It is hard to recognize him." The companions of the goddess sang this closing song. Look, look at the charming Divine Mother, who says that she is a black woman. Open your eyes and see how her beauty makes the world luminous. The mother calmly watched the play. I observed that when the song was sung, she became absorbed in deep meditation, and she remained in that ecstatic state for some time. This was what was so typical of Thakur, the master, and mother. Anything that reminded them of their true nature of their true being, they would soar into samadhi often. So that song, of course, would reminded Holy Mother not only of Kali, but of herself. She became absorbed in deep meditation and remained in that ecstatic state for some time. The mother saw the entire play, and we returned to Udbodhan. And when we returned to Udbodhan, it was 1:30 a.m., quite late at night. There was a benefit performance for the Ramakrishna Mission in Varanasi at the Minerva Theater on 12 July 1910. On that occasion, Holy Mother saw two of Girish's plays, Vilvamangal Thakur and Jana. According to, Akshay Chaitanya. According to Akshay Chaitanya, Holy Mother went to see Kalapahar and another play by Girish at the Manomohan Theater at 68 Beedon Street. Sounds like Beedon Street was the Broadway of Calcutta. Manomohan Theater at the 68 Beedon Street on 1 September 1915, a few years after Girish passed away. Girish had based Kalapadhar on a historical incident, but embedded in it devotional elements and Ramakrishna's teachings. In September 1918, Holy Mother went to see Ramanuja performed at the Minerva Theater. This play about a saint and philosopher of the 11th century was written by Aparesh Chandra Mukhopadhyay, a close associate of Girish, who was an actor. If you remember, it was his quote that opened this particular section. It was written by Aparesh Chandra Mukhopadhyay, a close associate of Girish, who was an actor and playwright. Pravrajika Bharatiprana, an attendant and disciple of Holy Mother, wrote, Holy Mother, Golapma, Yoginma, and many others went to see the play Ramanuja at the Minerva Theater. Aparesh arranged special seats for us. Holy Mother was happy to see the play. There was a scene in which the Guru tells Ramanuja during initiation, never tell this mantra to others. He who hears this mantra will be liberated. But if you share this mantra with others, you will go to hell. Now, this is a legendary story. Who knows its truth? I suspect it is true. Ramanuja is a historical figure, a philosopher that did exist. So if you repeat this mantra to others, they will be liberated. But if you share this mantra with others, you will go to hell. For the benefit of humanity, the great soul Ramanuja disobeys his guru and loudly utters this mantra to others. According to the story, he goes to the steps of the temple and shouts it to the crowd that's gathered there at the temple. Seeing that scene, Holy Mother went into samadhi. The famous actress Tarasundari acted in the role of Ramanuja. After that scene, she came to bow down to Holy Mother, but found that she had no outer consciousness. After Golapma's repeated calls, Holy Mother regained partial consciousness. Then Tara bowed down to her. The mother hugged Tara, considering her to be Ramanuja. This woman, Tara, also went often to see Swami Brahmananda, Rakal Maharaj, when he was president of the order. She would go and see him at Bellarmont and was well received. He thought very highly of her. When the play was over, all of the actresses came and bowed down to Mother, and she blessed them. Later, Tara would come to Udbodhan House to pay her respects to Mother. Shirod Prasad, last name, a famous, thank you, a famous playwright and a devotee of Holy Mother, wanted her to see, oh, say it please.
Kinari.
Kinari, a musical. He wanted her to see Kinari, a musical on Sunday, 18 September 1918. Now, this is just 2 years before, not even quite 2 years before the mother's passing away. Her health was not that great. Holy Mother went to see it with Swami Saradananda. As a mother never discriminates between her good and bad children, so Mother loved the stage actresses, although they came from questionable backgrounds. Holy Mother appreciated their talents in acting and music, as well as their sincere devotion for her. She had been born and brought up in a conservative and orthodox Brahmin family, but she understood the importance of the theater. It carries art and culture, religion and philosophy, history and tradition to the masses. The Puritans of society gradually became silent. It's interesting. The Puritans of society gradually became silent when Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Swami Vivekananda visited theaters and gave recognition to the actors and actresses who in those days were treated like outcasts by society. The Ramakrishna order has in Calcutta, and probably in other cities as well, but I actually saw this in Calcutta in 1999. They have that district from which these actresses came continued to exist in Calcutta, the so-called red light district. The Ramakrishna Mission has a major operation there to provide service, to offer service to these girls who are growing up in that neighborhood and allow them to escape that life. And it is just absolutely so inspiring. I mean, they help train them as musicians, they help train them as actresses, they help train them as writers, doctors. A number of women have gone on to become PhDs out of that district. And they also have, and it was really something to see, they have a machine shop, a training shop for machinists, and it is for these girls. And here were these girls learning to operate power equipment and lathes and making gears and such joy. There was such joy in the atmosphere there. These girls were having fun learning to do things that traditionally girls just didn't do at all. And one of the reasons for that was that Tata Industries, those of you who are from India know Tata Industries. Tata Industries underwrote that, provided the equipment, the lathes and the power drills and all of these things that they were using. And they hired these young women. They arranged to hire them so that when they graduated and were qualified machinists, and that's how they graduated, as qualified certified machinists. The Tata Industries would hire them. And so it was, this is what happened as the result of Mother's being involved with these actors and actresses. And as it said, Mother does not discriminate between her good and her bad children, but she tries to lift all her children up. And so that's what we saw. And when I say it was inspiring, I mean, anytime that anyone would like to talk to me about it privately, I'll tell you about my personal experience there. So we've come to the next section, Girish's passing. But we've taken to stopping. It's now 8:28. We've taken to stopping and asking those of you who are with us to see if you have any comments or questions about this section we just read, Holy Mother in the Theater, which was quite detailed and offered a real insight into Mother's breadth of love and her character, that she did not discriminate, though she was brought up in such an orthodox background, which could have led to a kind of Puritan attitude that was never Mother's way. So any comments or questions from anyone before we move on to this next section?
Yes, Brother Shankara, I
Yes.
have one small question.
Yes, Sham.
Did Girish at any time think of writing something on Sri Ramakrishna himself?
I don't think he ever did. I don't think he ever did write anything about Sri Ramakrishna as a play. He definitely saw Chaitanya as Sri Ramakrishna, and Krishna as Sri Ramakrishna. And so those things that he wrote, I don't recall if anyone else recalls anything that he wrote, but it's not my recollection that he wrote anything about Sri Ramakrishna. No, I don't think he did.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else? And by the way, Balakrishna, thank you for pronouncing things for me as we go along. Anyone else?
Actually, on the Kalpataru day, Sri Ramakrishna asked Girish, what do you think about me?
Yes.
I forgot the exact quote, but he says, how can I describe you? You know, I forgot the rest of the quote.
He said, when Valmiki and Vyasa were not able to describe you, what can I say? Something very like that. He alluded to Vyasa and Valmiki. When they weren't able to capture you, what can I say? And that, of course, threw the master into this ecstatic mood. But you're right. The Girish was very, very aware of the master's divinity. He was one of the first, I think maybe the first, to actually proclaim it publicly. Then there were a couple of editors of publications, one newspaper and a magazine, that began to take up that refrain. Anyone else? Okay. Girish's passing. Girish's talent and magnetic personality attracted many people, whom he brought to the Master and Holy Mother. He was also extremely generous in his financial support of the Master, Holy Mother, and the disciples of Ramakrishna. Later, Holy Mother recalled some incidents regarding Girish. Quote, it was Suresh, Surendranath, Mitra, who gave money regularly to support the monastery. This is particularly the Baranagore monastery, the very first one. So it was Suresh Mitra who gave money regularly to support the monastery. Girish also gave something. He bore all my expenses for a year and a half while I was at Nilambar Babu's house at Belur. That house is in the possession of the order. And if I'm not mistaken, you can still visit it. We certainly did when we were there in 1999. By we, I'm not using the royal we. I was with a group of other men. And I think three or four of us went and spent the day there. So that's, of course, it was sanctified by Mother's presence because she lived there for a year and a half. So he bore all my expenses for a year and a half while I was at Nilambar Babu's house at Belur. Earlier, he was a wretch and moved in bad company, running a theater. But he was a man of great faith, so he received the Master's unbounded grace. The Master gave him liberation. Once the Master said, Girish was born as a part of Shiva. Another time the Master said he was one of Shiva's demons. Once the Master said Girish was born as a part of Shiva, which indicates that his demons are part of him. On another occasion, Holy Mother said, quote, the Master's disease was due to accepting the sins of others. He said, quote, I have this cancer because I took on Girish's sins. Girish would not have been able to bear the suffering of his sinful actions. Now, isn't that something? Girish would not, and the Master who could see clearly the past, the present, the future. Girish would not have been able to bear the sufferings of his sinful actions. The Master had the power to die at will. He could have easily given up the body in samadhi, but he endured all that pain in order to unite his young disciples. For those of you who've read about the Master, you know that sometimes in samadhi, his body would appear to be dead. There would be no pupillary response. There would be no heartbeat, no pulse, no breathing. The body would appear to be dead. So this is what Holy Mother means. He could have given up the body. In other words, he could have just not returned to the body. He could have just let it drop. But he endured all that pain in order to unite his young disciples, those who would become the Ramakrishna order. On 11 February 1912, Holy Mother said to a devotee, alas, alas, Girish is dead. Today is the 4th day. His relatives came here to invite me to their house to attend the ritual. He is no more, so I did not feel the need to go there. A veritable Indra, the king of the gods, has fallen. He is no more, so I did not feel the need to go there. A veritable Indra, the king of the gods, has fallen. Oh, what tremendous faith and devotion he had for the Master. I'm skipping through some footnotes here. So we've come to a chapter heading, Holy Mother and Mahendra. Mahendranath Gupta, Holy Mother and Mahendranath Gupta. Those of you who read the Gospel are familiar with Mahendranath Gupta. He abbreviated his name just as M in the Gospel. The salutation for the opening of this chapter is, O Lord, your nectar-like words relieve the burning misery of afflicted souls. Your words, which poets have sung in verses, destroy the sins of worldly people forever. Blessed are those who hear of your vast glory. Blessed indeed are those who speak of you. How unparalleled is their bounty. I'm going to read that again because this applies to each and every one of us. It so deeply applies to each and every one of us. M recorded the words of the Master in the Gospel. That's what this refers to. O Lord, your nectar-like words, katamrita. O Lord, your nectar-like words relieve the burning misery of afflicted souls. Your words, which poets have sung in verses, destroy the sins of worldly people forever. Blessed are those who hear of your vast glory. Blessed indeed are those who speak of you. How unparalleled is their bounty. So let that just fall like a mantle around each of your shoulders. This is the Master's legacy to us. Of course, he's, as he said, he's not gone anywhere. He's with us in the subtle body, but we can't hear him, mostly. Some are privileged to hear him a little, but you can hear his words in the Gospel. Providence chose. Now, this is the Lord himself, when that's what's meant by providence, the divine presence itself. Providence chose Mahendranath Gupta, known by his pen name M, to record the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Although M was a householder devotee, he often lived with his guru Ramakrishna and served him with heart and soul. When the Master passed away on 16 August 1886, M became devoted to Holy Mother and served her according to his means for the rest of her life. The mother was very comfortable with M and his wife,
Nikunja
Devi, because she was aware of M's steadfast love and unflinching devotion, unselfish service, and complete obedience to the Master. In the early days, she did not hesitate to stay with M's family in Calcutta when she had no place of her own. M's mother died when he was a young man, and he felt a terrible emptiness inside. His departed mother consoled him in a dream. His departed mother consoled him in a dream. I shall always be with you, but you will not see me. Shortly after his mother's death, M began to have difficulties with his extended family. Distraught, M thought of committing suicide. One night, when he and his wife left the family home and went to his sister's house at Baranagar, one night, he and his wife left the family home, the extended family home, and went to his sister's house at Baranagar. A few days later, on 26 February 1882, M met his guru, Ramakrishna, in Dakshineshwar, and eventually found his lost mother in Holy Mother. If you remember what Holy Mother said to Girish, I am your real mother. So that's what's meant here. He eventually found his lost mother in Holy Mother. Holy Mother is the real mother of us all. M said, we visited the master over a period of 5 years, but never saw Holy Mother. From time to time, the master would refer to Ramlal's aunt. One day I asked, who is Ramlal's aunt? The master replied, oh, she lives in the Nahabad. She was the guide and pole star of my life, but I never saw her face during that time. When she became elderly, she lifted the veil a little from her face. I'm going to read that again. One day I asked, who is Ramlal's aunt? The master replied, oh, she lives in the Nahabad. She was the guide and pole star of my life, but I never saw her face during that time. When she became elderly, she lifted the veil a little from her face. M brought his wife to meet the master on a number of occasions, 2 of which were described in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. On 7 March 1885, M wrote, Holy Mother, Sri Ramakrishna's wife, was living in the Nahabad. Occasionally, she would come to Sri Ramakrishna's room to attend to his needs.
Mohini
Mohan had brought his wife and Nabin's mother with him to the temple garden from Calcutta. The ladies were with Holy Mother. They were waiting for an opportunity to visit the master when the men devotees would leave the room. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on the small couch, talking to Mohini. Mohini's wife was almost mad with grief on account of her son's death. Sometimes she laughed and sometimes she wept, but she felt peaceful in Sri Ramakrishna's presence. Master, how is your wife now? Mohini, she becomes quiet when she is here, but sometimes at home she becomes very wild. The other day she was going to kill herself. When Sri Ramakrishna heard this, he appeared worried. Mohini said to him humbly, please give her a few words of advice. The master, don't allow her to cook. That will heat her brain all the more and keep her in the company of others so that they may watch her. Mohini's wife entered the room and sat at one side. The master suddenly addressed Mohini's wife and said, by unnatural death, one becomes an evil spirit. Beware. Make it clear to your mind. Is this what you have come to after hearing and seeing so much? In other words, having been exposed to him for a long time. Mohini was about to take his leave. He saluted Sri Ramakrishna. His wife also saluted the master, who stood near the north door of the room. Mohini's wife spoke to him in a whisper. Master, do you want to stay here? Mohini's wife, yes, I want to spend a few days with Holy Mother at the Nahabad. May I? Master, that will be all right, but you talk of dying. That frightens me, and the Ganges is so near. Some of you may be familiar with the term Ganga Pravesh, people who take their own lives by drowning themselves in the Ganga. That's why the master was concerned. On 24 April 1886, M recorded another such story in the Gospel. M came to the Kashipur garden house, accompanied by his wife and son. The boy was 7 years old. It was at the master's request that he brought his wife, who was almost mad with grief owing to the death of one of her sons. That day, the master several times allowed M's wife the privilege of waiting on him. Her welfare seemed to occupy his attention a great deal. In the evening, Holy Mother came to the master's room to feed him. M's wife accompanied her with a lamp. The master tenderly asked her many questions about her household. He requested her to come again to the garden house and spend a few days with Holy Mother, not forgetting to ask her to bring her baby daughter. When the master had finished his meal, M's wife removed the plates. He chanted with her a few minutes. Oh, no, chatted. He chatted with her. He chatted with her a few minutes. Now, the thing to keep in mind is the reason that the master had moved to the Kashipur garden house was that his cancer had become advanced. And it wasn't long before he passed away. So this just goes to show the master's heart was never with his own concerns. It was always for others. How great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. So the master is still busy at that work. And it's our great, it's inexpressible what it is. Bounty, it was said at the beginning. It's our great bounty that the master is there for us in this way. About 9 o'clock in the evening, Sri Ramakrishna was seated in his room with the devotees. He had a garland of flowers around his neck. He told M that he had requested his wife to spend a few days at the garden house with Holy Mother. His kindness touched M's heart. Now, if you remember the description earlier, we heard of the quarters that Mother had at that garden house. They were just tiny, tiny. So for her to share this with anyone else would be a great inconvenience. But nevertheless, none of those, the master, the mother, Vivekananda, they never had those concerns. In the beginning, Nikunja Devi had disapproved of her husband's close relationship with Ramakrishna. When M reported this to the master, he told M that one should give up a wife who was an obstacle on one's spiritual path. But he assured M that if he had sincere faith in the Divine Mother, she would change his wife's mind. I'll repeat that. But the master assured him that if he had sincere faith in the Divine Mother, she would change his wife's mind. Soon, Nikunja Devi became an ardent devotee of Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, and it was through his wife that M learned more about Holy Mother. On 6 April 1886, when the master was ill in Kashipur, M confided to the master, "My wife is having temper tantrums from time to time. She has no feeling for our children. She feels good if she comes to you. She says that sometimes she sees you. She was lamenting the other day that you had bestowed grace on Balaram's wife and not on her. She has no peace. She becomes upset if I don't come here, and also if I do come here. The other night, she had a dream that your disease had become worse, and she began to cry, saying, "Oh, Master, I became rid of all my pain by visiting you. I share your teachings with others, but she does not listen to me. I share your teachings with her. I share your teachings with her, but she does not listen to me. She acts according to her whims." Nikunja Devi stayed with Holy Mother both in Dakshineshwar and Kashipur. It was through Nikunja that M learned of Holy Mother's patience, perseverance, forgiveness, renunciation, service, and motherly affection for all. I'll just repeat those attributes, just remembering that when she says our real mother, this is the mother that we have. M learned of Holy Mother's patience, perseverance, forgiveness, renunciation, service, and motherly affection for all. Thus, M became convinced that the Master and Holy Mother were manifestations of the same divine power. And indeed, that's what both the Master and Mother said of themselves. That behind was a being that was genderless, but it took form as the Master and the Mother in order to do the Leela of divine manifestation, divine incarnation. How are we doing for time? Okay, it's 8:55. Before we go on to the next section, any comments or questions from anyone?
Yes, Brother Shankara.
Yes, Aaron.
I was listening to a sermon by Swami Sarada Devi, and he was talking about how we can't eliminate pain, but we can, we can't reduce pain, but we can reduce suffering. So would Ramakrishna, for example, like when he took on the sufferings of the world, so to speak, he didn't suffer as we suffer? Or
is that a question?
Yes, yes.
Okay. The answer is yes and no. He would occasionally weep to Kali about how much pain he was in. He wouldn't ask her to remove it, but he would just... Holy Mother said that when the divine incarnates as a human being, they are liable for everything that all the rest of us who take this embodiment, this suit. So the Master would occasionally weep. I mean, literally just weep to Kali, telling her how much it hurt. But then his mind would soar, and he was not in contact with the body. And this is what Swami Sarvadevananda means when he says, we can't avoid the pain, but we can minimize the suffering. Our minds too, our spirit too, can soar. And for that time, we do not suffer as we do when we're in our ordinary body consciousness. The remarkable aspect of that is that you remember it afterwards. And so that your experience of the suffering, though you may be in the pain, you may be having the pain, your experience of the suffering is different. Simply because you know this other place that is actually your home. The body is not our home. The world is not our home. So we can learn to minimize our suffering, though we will experience the pain. And when we're in our ordinary body consciousness, the pain may be severe, no two ways about it. Does that get it, Aaron?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Anything else?
Brother Shankar, I have one comment.
Yes, Haima.
When Yam said that his wife was, sometimes she feels like killing herself, and the Master said, keep her in the company of others so that they may watch her. Even 100 years ago, he said that even in today's world, that works so well with people who are having these, killing thoughts and suicidal thoughts. When they have more company, it works so much better. They do better with themselves.
Yes.
Even 100 years back, it was same in India. A lot of times people don't go for psychiatric help. Because of the extended family, they live a longer life even though they are depressed and have these suicidal thoughts. I've seen many people in India like this.
The master's insights.
Yes, that's amazing. And I mean, I'm like,
well, we can see them manifested in the teachings of people that became psychiatrists and other people later. If you read Carl Jung, you will find he manifested so much of the master's teachings. He didn't say, I'm manifesting the master's teachings. He just said, I discovered these things within myself when I went looking for the divine. Yes. And so then he wrote about them, and of course his followers became so-called Jungian therapists and so on. But yes, the master's insights.
Yes, and the spiritual path and being in the company of other extended family fellowship, it really helps the depression and all these type of things. That's the best way to approach. And it's amazing, even hundreds of years ago, it was still Master suggested that I was so shocked and stunned and really amazed. It's really nice.
Yes, it is.
Nice to see his insight, his power. Yes. Thank you. And
that's why, they have suicide counseling centers.
Yes.
A friend of mine worked in one in Los Angeles, and they would try to encourage people, come here. Don't just stay at home with your thoughts. Come. And they'd be open all night long, groups of people gathering together,
yes.
And
really
blessings on, there were nearby coffee shops that would provide them with coffee and donuts and all that all night long. So yes, it's true.
It really works. Thank you.
It really
that's a better
as Saint Francis of Assisi said in one of his poems, a kind face is a precious gift.
Yes, it definitely is. Definitely.
Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Haima.
Sure.
Any other comments or questions? All right, it's a little after 9. We'll wrap it up there. Next week, we'll start with M's attitude toward Holy Mother. That's the next section in this chapter. O beloved Mother, make real for us this prayer that we offer. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityor Ma Amritangamaya, Abir Moiti. O beloved, lead us from this thy lesser truth to thy highest truth. Lead us from darkness and ignorance to the brilliance of thy wisdom and love. Lead us from death to immortality. Light us through and through. Light us through and through with thy everlasting, shining presence. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beings everywhere. Hari Om Tat Sat.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
What is that Abir Moiti?
I don't know the Sanskrit any more than that. It's part of a longer prayer that Swami Prabhavananda would just append that little part of it to, it's light us through and through. It translates as light us through and through with thy everlasting shining presence. That's, so I learned it from Swami Prabhavananda. He would often, when he was repeating that prayer, he would, well, I would say almost always, he would append that little piece to it. Sometimes he would say the rest of the prayer also. It goes on for quite a few lines. He would recite the rest of it in English, as well as having chanted the Sanskrit. But it's an invitation for us to recognize the shining presence within us. Light us through and through with thy everlasting shining presence.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Anything else from anyone before we wind it up? All right.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. Go in Mother's loving and protective embrace.
Thank you so much.
It's always nice to think deeply about the Mother on Tuesday. We, of course, are thinking deeply about Holy Mother, who is she was the Mother made flesh. So how fortunate are we to have not only her pictures to gaze on and to relate to, but this wonderful book by Swami Chetanananda that evokes her for us and tells her story of her life so lovingly. The title is, Holy Mother and her divine play, her Leela. Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play. So good night, all.
Good night, Brother Shankara.
Till those of you who care to be with us for tomorrow evening. tomorrow evening, of course, we take up the Gita, and we'll continue having classes right up through the end of this month, and then they'll be suspended for the month of August. And the next newsletter, there'll be a little surprise for you about what will be happening in August. So until next time.
Shankara.
Good night.
Good night, Brother Shankara. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Uh-huh.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, Hari Om.